Nice to see you this afternoon. I hope that I apologize in advance for not speaking Danish. So I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to propose that we actually, instead of talking about mindfulness, which is important, which is just what happened on 2 occasions, that we actually see if we can taste it and touch it a little bit, feel it inside ourselves. Because we've been fed, the mind has been fed in a certain way, so maybe it can just kind of release itself a little from that kind of activity. Is that okay with you? Okay. Good. If it's not okay with you, then don't feel like you have to do it. You can just daydream, or, muse, or leave. So there are lots of ways to approach mindfulness and meditation. So if mindfulness has this quality of knowing what's happening in the present moment, not just thinking it, but actually feeling it, to actually take up some kind of practice like that usually means we want something. In the early days of our work at the Center for Mindfulness, the first 21 years, we used to ask people to set 3 goals for themselves for coming into the MBSR-program. And these were people that had very serious illnesses, both physical and mental, mostly referred by their physicians for cancers and heart disease and rheumatoid conditions and pain, chronic pain. What do you think the number one goal that people wrote down, no matter what their condition? It was peace of mind. You could have a stage 3 cancer, you could have a recurrence, and people were still saying peace of mind. It tells you something about what we really want and what we really need, and how often it feels so distant, so almost impossible for us to experience and know. So there's this sense that people want to be in more harmony with the conditions in everyday life, right? We all want that. Because life is continually presenting itself with the unexpected. And even with the expected, it's hard to be in harmony with it, often because we don't want it, or we don't like it, or we're tired of it. So harmony in this sense is, how do I have some kind of peaceful relationship with it all? So I don't feel so agitated, but a little bit more at ease. Well, I think that has everything to do with us beginning to touch something larger than our ideas about who and what we are. And in a very real way, that's what meditation is actually leading people into, discovering that that we are more than we think. But it doesn't tell you that. You begin to taste it. So let's see if we can explore this a little. So you can see I'm sitting in this chair upright, and I'll probably close my eyes at times, and other times I won't, but I invite you to either close your eyes or leave them open. Find a comfortable a place for your hands. You can put them on your thighs or your knees. And I would invite you to actually become aware of the fact that you're sitting here. Now, each of us already knows we're sitting here. We know it from a kind of cognitive perspective. We know what the word sitting means. We know what the position looks like. So, from the level of thinking, we know this. I'm sitting here. Let's see if we can actually experience sitting here in a different way. More visceral, more direct. Because the thought I'm sitting here is the product of something else. Some set of sensations that we decided to call sitting in language. So what is sitting here right now? What is it like? Like, for instance, can you feel the sensation of your hands against your legs, if that's where they are, or if they're folded on the desktop in front of you? Or can you feel the sense of your feet inside of a pair of shoes, or meeting the floor? Or how about the sense of the body sitting upright in space? What does that feel like? For instance, is your back against the chair? And if it is, can you feel that subtle sense of pressure where the back and your back and the back of the chair meet? Or where your buttocks and the seat of the chair meet? Not as a thought only, but as a sensation. Oh yeah. So all of those sensations, or the constellation of those sensations, is what we call sitting. And the invitation here is to feel yourself sitting, rather than to think about yourself sitting. And of course, in a similar way, as we begin to slow down a bit and deliberately slow down like we're doing now, you might actually also become aware of the fact that you're breathing. Now, from the point of view of thinking, you already know you're breathing. And you would have the thought, yes, I'm breathing. But let's see if we can feel this phenomenon we call breathing. And we can start at the most basic level, which is respiration. So, can you feel the sensations in the body that are associated with breathing? Like maybe you notice that the belly seems to, or the abdomen seems to expand a little when you breathe in, and seems to flatten a little as you breathe out, without having to force anything. Some of you might notice that the chest there's some motion in the chest. For others of us, we might have this more generalized feeling of the way the breath enters and the way the breath leaves the body as a feeling, rather than simply as a thought, which is secondary to the actuality of breathing. And you don't have to worry about controlling your breath. It's been taking care of you all your life. It took care of you during these 2 talks today without giving it much attention. So you might say we're going to simply see what it's like to rest in the feeling of breathing. Without needing to improve or manipulate or change your breath in any way. And you'll probably notice the mind will have all sorts of thoughts like, am I doing this right? I already know all about this. What's for dinner? It's all normal. The mind is kind of, what we typically call the mind is kind of like the surface of the ocean. It's always moving. You know that the sea is never completely still. And just as we could feel the sensations in the body and feel the sensations of breathing in the body, we can also feel, perceive thoughts coming and going, and we don't have to analyze them or wonder about them. It might happen, or analyze them. We can have a different relationship, which is that we become aware of the activity of the mind rather than trying to figure out anything about the content of our thoughts. This, of course, is one of the hallmarks of MBSR or MBCT, this discovery that there's an aspect of us that can perceive or witness or be aware of this activity without necessarily becoming enthralled by it, caught up in it, carried away. And since being carried away is normal as well, if you notice that your mind starts to drift, then see what it's like to, without any kind of aggression or self-aggression really, just gently come back to the feeling of breathing or the feeling of sitting here. You could say in some ways we're learning to ride the waves of the mind. Rather than trying to stop them. And then we could look a little bit more deeply. Because we all know that if you dive into the sea or into a lake that's turbulent and choppy at the surface, if you drop 5 or 10 feet under the surface of the water, 5 or 10 meters, it's not so turbulent. It's actually often quite still, maybe some movement, but no turbulence. So we're not denying that there's turbulence at the surface, but we're also discovering that there's something else in the depth of the mind. And we often call the depth of the mind the heart. And we learn over time about resting here. In the depth. Yeah, we learn about coming back to the depth when we get caught up in the turbulence. Again, not denying it, not pretending it's not here. But by relating with it in a slightly different way than usual. We begin to discover that there's a world within us that's not so thrown, not so subjugated by the turbulence and chaos in the world. Not as an escape, but as a resource, as a possibility for bringing some of this stability with us into the day-to-day turbulence and constant change that we're swimming in by being alive. So maybe for a minute or two we'll simply, I'll be quiet and we can explore together the relative stillness and silence and steadiness. That is innate, it's part of us, it's not something we have to get, but something we are remembering by being deliberate and intentional. So that means that from time to time you can be deliberate about stopping. You can be deliberate about becoming aware of your breath in a moment of turbulence or difficulty. Because your breath is always here, your capacity to slow down a little or stop, the momentum is always here. And in that stopping and stabilizing, usually we see things a little bit more clearly, and we can make choices that might be different than usual. about how we'll relate to a situation or a person or something that occurs internally to us. So thank you for your presence here, and I wish you a good day, good life. Thank you.